Prior to this season, League One Ontario, Ontario's highest level of provincial football competition, announced that there was an expansion freeze taking place for 2022 and 2023, and then in the 2024 season, it would open an unprecedented in Canada three-tier system with promotion and relegation, with all of the existing teams being slotted into either the Premier League or the Championship, and reserve teams and all new joining teams being added to League 2, which would be the third division, with promotion and relegation between all three divisions, with the champions of each division moving up and the last place team of each division moving down. Now, in the past few years, League One Ontario has been a rapidly growing league. A lot of teams with OPDL systems that hadn't yet joined League One Ontario were moving in, or teams that had previously had League One Ontario teams and then took a couple years hiatus were all coming back. Also, there were new owners and new teams which were coming into League One Ontario with a kind of different mindset. These were teams that really wanted to take League One Ontario to another level, change the way the league works, and really make the semi-pro part of League One Ontario be what the league actually is. Teams like the Simcoe County Rovers, Guelph United, and Electric City FC, which operated like fully professional teams. Now, with this rapid growth in the league and the fact that League One Ontario operates in a very narrow window, as a lot of players are youth sports athletes who can only really play between May and the end of August before having to go off and play for their respective universities or colleges, meant that expanding too far meant that every team wouldn't be able to play every other team. Already now at 22 teams, every team is only able to play each other team once. So League One Ontario has decided to split into multiple divisions so that every team can play every other team 2 times home and away, make it a proper football league tournament and meet the scheduling constraint requirements. Now, of course, with a expansion freeze, but also knowing that there is an unprecedented interest in expansion in the league, there obviously has been a lot, and I mean a lot, of speculation over what are some teams that are not in League One Ontario that could be going into the league. And chief among that is speculation over what the heck is happening in Toronto. Now, Toronto is a very interesting situation for League One Ontario. When I say Toronto, I mean Toronto proper. There are a lot of teams in the GTA, but most of them are sprinkled around the 905. Toronto proper only has 3 teams in League One Ontario: Alliance United, Masters, and North Toronto Nitros. And of those 3, 2 of them are based in Scarborough, which means non-Scarborough Toronto only has 1 team, being the North Toronto Nitros. Now, the Nitros play at Downsview Park, and there obviously are several very nice venues that could work quite well for League One Ontario sprinkled around the city of Toronto that, as of right now, are not being used for any real level of semi-professional or high-end amateur play. Okay, well, maybe a little bit for the unsanctioned Canadian Soccer League, which is technically semi-professional, but besides that, they're not really being used for anything that is officially sanctioned. Now, the easiest predictors for who's going to be expanded into League One Ontario in 2024 are the teams that are OPDL license holders that aren't League One Ontario license holders, but currently field teams in the League One Ontario reserve leagues. Now, in the women's reserve leagues and the men's U21 and U19 reserves leagues, there are several teams that are not in League One Ontario, but field teams in those reserve leagues. And it makes sense that with a lot of reserve teams being put into the Division 3 league in League One Ontario in 2024, that a few of these teams may go into that Division 3 league with them. Now, these teams are Aurora FC, Richmond Hill Soccer Club, Rush Academy Canada, Tecumseh Soccer Club, which is based near Windsor, Cambridge Youth Soccer, or Cambridge United, not to be confused with the Cambridge United that plays in the lower tiers of the English Football League, Whitecaps London, which is the London-based Vancouver Whitecaps Academy, Oakville Soccer Club, not to be confused with the Blue Devils, which is another club based in Oakville, FC Durham, which was formerly Oshawa, and Brampton Soccer Club. Now, let's take all those teams. The Toronto issue still persists, though. None of those teams are based in Toronto proper. In fact, same issue as League One Ontario kind of currently has. Most of them are based in the 905, but none of them are actually based in Toronto. And this is a problem that also persists as well when you look at teams that aren't just in the League One Ontario Reserve Leagues, but teams who have U17 OPDL teams, which having an U17 OPDL team, the next step up for those players would be to go into some level of League One Ontario if that club was willing to field a team in League One Ontario. And teams, again, that have a U17 male or female OPDL team, but no League One Ontario team are as follows. On the men's side of things, you have Niagara Falls Soccer Club, West Ottawa, Markham, Toronto High Park, Toronto FC London, and Toronto FC Ottawa. And on the women's side of things, you have Markham, Ottawa Toronto FC, Ottawa South, Rush Academy, Niagara Falls, and West Ottawa, and Toronto High Park. So again, lots of teams in and around the GTA and Ontario. Niagara Falls is a very interesting option. It could be a very fun addition to League One Ontario. I hope they join in. And the Ottawa teams also are an interesting situation because we know Ottawa South actually plays in the PLSQ, and West Ottawa makes sense if they joined Ottawa South in the PLSQ. Were they willing to again jump up the level? But looking particularly at Toronto, and if a team can move into Toronto proper and really into downtown Toronto proper, the main pick there is Toronto High Park FC. Now, quick sidebar away from Toronto High Park. When it comes to League One Ontario in Toronto proper, people usually bring up 3 stadiums. These are all about 2,000 to 3,000 capacity stadiums, which would be pretty much perfect for a League One Ontario team for big key matchups and, like, you know, be able to fit in the couple hundred that go to the regular season games. These 3 stadiums are Esther Scheiner in North York, Brockton Stadium at Bloor and Dufferin, and Centennial Park Stadium in Centennial Park in northern Etobicoke. Now, Brockton Stadium is the most interesting of these. Real grass, very nice, just north of downtown location at Bloor and Dufferin. That is pretty much the ideal spot for a League One Ontario team in Toronto proper. It is currently used pretty much exclusively by Sporting Football Club Toronto, which is Sporting's affiliated academy in Toronto. Now, this is a very interesting one because a lot of people are saying that Sporting should field a League One Ontario team. And what's interesting about it is that Sporting, while having a very strong academy presence in Toronto, this is a team that only plays in the TDYSL, which is 2 divisions below OPDL. So it's 2 divisions below the Ontario Premier Development League, which is where most League One Ontario players go from. Now, this is a very, very good team in the TDYSL and could probably play at the very least I model, which is the 2nd division. However, as of right now, they are in the TDYSL pretty exclusively. On the adult side of things, they do field multiple teams at multiple different levels of the Ontario Soccer League, which is, besides the OPDL, the highest level of Ontario amateur football, and actually the league that Ontario's representative in the Amateur Challenge Cup every year comes from. Now, they do have a top tier Ontario Soccer League team. So obviously Sporting is fine with having high-level adult soccer, amateur adult soccer at Brockton Stadium. But to get a League One Ontario license, they'd likely also have to get an OPDL team to go with it. So you're spending money on a League One Ontario license and an OPDL license, and that's a lot of money for a team that only is in the TDYSL, and there's probably a reason for why they're not in the OPDL. It makes the dream of there being a Sporting-owned League One Ontario team at Brockton Stadium kind of a pipe dream right now. This, though, is where Toronto High Park FC comes back into play. Toronto High Park FC plays primarily out of 3 locations. They use the Toronto High Park fields, mostly for their lower level teams, and then they use either the Lakeshore Collegiate Turf Field in southern Etobicoke right near the lakeshore, or they use Michael Power High School, which is up actually right near Centennial Park. Toronto High Park FC could get a League One Ontario team, could extend their OPDL up to League One Ontario, and then play a professional team at either Centennial Park Stadium, which is literally a middle school length away from Michael Power. Like, it's literally Michael Power, a middle school, Centennial Park Stadium. So that is a possibility to get a team in Centennial Park. Of course, that is very close to Mississauga, like just south of the airport. So it's not really fixing that like downtown Toronto, League One Ontario gap. The other more interesting option, and when I say interesting, I mean really interesting because it would require them to make some sort of deal to get into Brockton, is Brockton is exactly 4 subway stops away from High Park subway station on the Bloor line. So it's not unfeasible for Toronto High Park FC to have a League One Ontario team that plays home games at Brockton. It would be weird because Brockton is like colored, painted in sporting colors. They have the sporting advertisements up on the side, over the benches. It's a very much sporting stadium, but it's not impossible and locationally makes sense if Toronto High Park FC wants to play there if they were to field a team in League One Ontario. Is it likely? No, but it's not impossible, and honestly right now, in terms of teams going into League One Ontario, I think Toronto High Park FC is a lot closer to League One Ontario than Sporting is. So right now it may actually be more likely for the first League One Ontario team in Brockton Stadium to be Toronto High Park. Now I also mentioned Esther Scheiner Stadium, which is up at Finch and Bathurst. It's kind of in an interesting spot because there's no real high-level teams in the OPDL, especially in the older ages of the OPDL, really close to it in Toronto. It's too far north for North Toronto. They seem pretty happy at Downsview Park. Esther Scheiner, in terms of what club kind of has rights to it, it's North York Hearts, which don't really have very many rep teams in the older ages and aren't kicking around the doors of the OPDL. So even though the club that would make the most sense to go up to League One Ontario using Esther Scheiner would be the North York Hearts, they're in an even worse off spot than Sporting when it comes to getting into League One Ontario. They're just nowhere near it at the moment. So because of that, despite how great of a field Esther Scheiner would be for League One Ontario, it's kind of a write-off at the moment. But for the first year of the 3rd Division of League One Ontario, I think the most likely option for how that tier is going to be filled out is some combination of the 9 reserve league teams that I mentioned, some combination of the 9 teams that have reserve league teams in League One Ontario but aren't in League One Ontario proper. I have heard some rumors about Kingston trying to return as League One Ontario expanding a bit further east with the likes of Electric City FC have made Kingston reconsider the travel distance a little bit. It is still a terrible location for the bus travel that League One Ontario does, especially a Kingston to Windsor away game would be absolute hell. But with the addition of Peterborough and potentially more teams out east in like Oshawa and whatnot, the drive week in, week out that Kingston has to do isn't as bad as it would have been when they were driving to the GTA or further west every single week when they first tried to be in the League One Ontario. So in the end, there are a lot of places that League One Ontario is probably going to expand to. A lot more places around the GTA, a lot more places down near southern Ontario, a couple more places out east, a couple more places up north, all very likely. The big question still remains as Toronto proper. What do you do? Will downtown Toronto get a team in or around there, or is basically all of Toronto going to have to rely on the North Toronto Nitros and the 2 Scarborough teams? There has to be more added in. There's just too big of a population base and too many young kids playing soccer and playing more and more competitive levels of soccer to not have another team in Toronto proper. So only time will tell, but there is stadiums at the ready. It just needs a club or an ownership group to take the charge. So that is for this video. As always, if you'd like to hit like, if you want to see more of my stuff, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.